So what happened then? The girls, perhaps they were also listening to the story. So قالت, she said, إحداهما, one of the two. One of the two women, whichever one she was, either older or younger, Allahu A'lam. One of the two women said, Ya abati, O my father, istajirhu, hire him. Istajir from the root letters, Hamza, Jim, Ra, Ajr. What does Ajr mean? Wage. And istijar is to hire someone in return for a wage. That they do some work for you, and you give them a wage. So hire him. Why did she say hire him? She was so intelligent. Because, think about it. Musa a.s., he needed a place to go to. Right? And this old man, he also needed help. Isn't it so? Both of them needed help. Both of them needed other people. And their need could be fulfilled if they entered in a contract with one another. So قالت إحداهما يا أبت استأجره. Oh my father, hire him, employ him. Why? So that he may look after the flock for us. You are an old man, you cannot go. And we, two girls, we go out. It's very difficult for us. We have to go amongst men. It takes so long for us. Why don't you hire this man? And life will become easy for all of us, right? His need will be fulfilled, and our need will also be fulfilled. And then she said, Inna, indeed, khayra, the best one, man istajarta, whom you could hire, is al-qawiyul ameen, the strong and the trustworthy. The best person whom you could hire, man istajarta, the best person whom you could hire. In your case, the best person whom you could hire is al-qawi and al-ameen. Why did she say istajarta in your case in particular? Because he was an old man. And he had only 2 daughters. So she said that the best person whom you could hire is someone who is al-qawi, strong, capable, and ameen, trustworthy. Someone who can manage your work and someone who will not cheat you. Someone who is reliable. And look at him. He managed to water the flock and he did not cheat you in any way. He did not cheat us in any way. He respected us and he also completed the work. So al-qawiyul ameen. So basically she's saying that hire him because of his strength and trustworthiness. Now look at how smart and intelligent this girl is. That she is able to determine, she's able to have a good idea of the character of Musa a.s. based on her limited interaction with him, and she gave her suggestion. And she says that the best person whom you could hire is al-qawi al-ameen. This teaches us a very, very important lesson. That whenever you want to ask someone to do some work for you, whether they're coming as a volunteer or they're coming as someone who's going to work for you for a wage, what should be the criteria of selection? What should be the criteria of selection? Should it be that, oh, she's such a good friend of mine. She's so entertaining. 2 things. What are they? First of all, quwwah, and secondly, amana. That the person should be qawi. What does it mean by that? That a person should be strong. Now, if the work is physical, then definitely what kind of strength is meant over here? Physical strength. And if the work is mental, it's otherwise, it's got to do with the mind, then what kind of strength do you need? Mental strength, right? So, first of all, you have to see if the person is really capable. If they are capable of doing that work. If they're qualified of doing that work. They have the training, or they have the ability, they have the necessary strength and skills. Now, since this work was about managing animals, Musa a.s., he was definitely someone very qawi. If with a single blow he could kill a man, that shows how strong he was. And if after such a long journey on foot, he was able to, water a flock of sheep for someone, that's also a reflection of how much strength they possess. Think about it. Sometimes we're out and we have to walk for, let's say, an hour or 2. When we come back home and we have a list of things to do, we have to cook or clean, what do? We take a long break first, right? We take some rest, we go take a nap, and then we go and do the work. And even then, we don't do it properly. Why? We give ourselves the excuse, I'm so tired. My feet are hurting, my legs are hurting, I can't stand anymore. And we leave the dirty dishes in the kitchen, and we leave so many things in the kitchen. Why? For tomorrow. Right now, I'm too tired. So the fact that Musa a.s. was able to help the women as soon as he arrived, what does it show? What does it show? His strength. And the fact that he could manage a flock amongst the flocks of so many other people, again, what does that reflect? His strength. So she knew that he was a strong man. And Al-Amin. Who is Al-Amin? The one who is trustworthy. That if you give some work to him, he will complete it. And he will do it properly. He will not deceive you. He will not cheat you. He will not leave the work unfinished. Because unfortunately, many times what happens? You give some work to someone, they don't show up. You ask them repeatedly, any update? Any update? No update. And finally, when they do hand over the work to you, it's incomplete. And the whole work, who has to do it again? You yourself have to do it. This is not Amin. Amin is that whatever work you have been given, you take full ownership of that and you do it as though it's your own work. You don't leave it until it's done. You don't go away until you have found a replacement. You understand? Because you see, life is unpredictable. Many things can happen. It's possible you're doing your work and all of a sudden you have to go. Doesn't mean you go and you just leave your work unattended. What should you do if you're really Amin? You're going to find a replacement. You're going to find someone to work in your place. Because if the work is important to you, then you will never ever leave it unattended. And each and every one of us must think about our work this way. Any work that we're doing, if we ever have to go, how can we leave our work unattended? How can we say, too bad, I'm going, you deal with it? This is not the proper way. If you have to go, you have to find a replacement. This is a part of amana. If you have to leave your responsibility, find out in whose hands are you leaving that responsibility. Who will continue your work after you're gone? You can't just say, I have completed my time and therefore I'm going. No. If this is your work, once you're done with your time, you cannot leave it like that. Find someone to continue that work. This is something very, very important. And unfortunately, we lack this quality. And because of that, no work that we do is effective. Any work at all. Because sometimes at the last moment people disappear. Halfway through the work people leave. And if they have to go, they just leave the work on the rest of the people. You manage it yourself. This is extremely unfair. You see, any time a person is working at a particular place, in a professional world, right? They're working at a company. And if they wish to resign, can they just go and say, I quit and walk out? What do they do if they're decent? They will give a notice of 2 weeks minimum. And if they have any respect for the company, they will give more than 2 weeks. And they will say that before I go, I will complete this and this and this work. And whoever is going to replace me, I will train them in this work. And even after I'm gone, I'm available. If you need any help, if you need any guidance, if you need any, instruction, anything, I'm still available. This is the sign of an Amin person. We have to take responsibility of any work that we do in this way. It's your own work. It's your own personal work. You'll be questioned about it. Many times, because at this institute, many people, they come and volunteer. But unfortunately, many times this is a problem that we face. That people, they walk in and without any notice, they'll just not show up for work one day. And you're wondering where the people are. And they'll just say, we're not coming anymore because of this and this reason. And yes, the reason is very genuine. It may be a very genuine reason. But think about it. Once you're gone, doesn't this work still need to be done? It needs to get done. Find a replacement for yourself. And this is why, while you're working, always look, okay, if I die today, if I die tomorrow, who's going to manage this work? Who's going to continue with this work? We have to be very, very careful. You see, Musa a.s., he was Amin how? That he also took initiative. And whatever work he did, he completed it. This is why they said that he is Amin. He offered his services. And if he offered his services, he did not just leave halfway. No, he completed the work. He finished the work. Exactly. That if we have this fear that we are answerable to Allah, Allah will question me. Allah will ask me about my work. Did I do it properly or not? Did I complete it or not? Did I hand it over to responsible people or not? If we have this fear, then really we will do our work properly. Because people who lack this fear of accountability from Allah, then what happens? They take their work very lightly. They will leave it any time. They will leave it unfinished. They will not hand it over properly to others. And especially, you see, when it comes to the work of deen, this is not like any other job. This is not like any other job. This is the work of deen. You're doing it for the sake of Allah. And we're supposed to do it with ihsan. So any work that we're doing, how can we just leave without properly handing over the responsibility? We see that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, what did he do? Before he died, he appointed Umar radiallahu anhu as the Khalifa. Right? He gave a list and he made sure that somebody was there to take over once he was gone. Now what degree did Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu have in political sciences? Did he? No. Then what did he base his judgment on? That these two conditions they must be met. Al-Qawi and Al-Amin. And because he himself was Amin, he did not leave the work unattended. No. He made sure there was someone to look after all that work when he was gone. And we see that because of his selection of Umar radiallahu anhu, look at the success that the Muslims gained in that time, in those few years. That the Muslim empire, on whole, there was so much justice, so much wealth, and at the same time Islam spread far and wide. The empire, it grew so quickly. So he selected the right person, Al-Qawi, and someone who was Al-Amin. And if you think about it, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, whatever good deeds he did in his life, on one hand, and because he appointed Umar radiallahu anhu, whatever Umar radiallahu anhu did after him, that also will be in his scales as well. Why? Because ad-dallu ala al-khayri kafa'ilihi. The one who shows the way to goodness is like as if he's doing it himself. So think about it. If you're doing some work for the deen, you're doing it for a year, you're doing it for 2 years, and constantly, you keep thinking, I'm doing this for the sake of Allah. Inshallah, Allah will give me reward for it. Now, after 2 years, let's say you have to go, you have to leave your work. Don't you want that the good that you were doing before, the reward that you were gaining before, you should continue to gain it? Don't you want that? Don't you? Of course you do. So in order to do that, what should you do? Leave your work? Close your register, close your books, leave them at the desk, and then walk away? No. Find someone. Train someone. Give the work to them. Because even then when you're gone, whatever work they're doing, because you found them, you trained them, you showed them the way, you will continue to get the hasanat, although you're not even coming anymore. You're doing something different, but because you showed them, you trained them, you're still getting the hasanat. So when a person becomes Amin in this way, look at the reward. So what do we see over here? That the woman, she says that, oh my father, hire him because he is Al-Qawi and Al-Amin. We see that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he said, the people who had the most discernment were 3. People with most rushd, there were 3. Who? Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, because he appointed Umar radiallahu anhu. The companion of Yusuf alayhi salam, the Aziz Misr, when he said, make his stay comfortable. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he knew who Umar radiallahu anhu was. Aziz Misr, when he saw Yusuf alayhi salam, he knew he was someone special. And the daughter of Shu'aib, meaning the daughter of this old man, who, when she said, Ya abat istajirhu, inna khayra man istajarta al-qawiyyul amin. So she was also someone very intelligent, someone who had a lot of rushd, that she was able to see that there was something special about this man. So what happened? The father, he liked the idea. That yes, I should hire him. It'll make my life easy. It'll make his life easy. It'll make the life of my daughters easy. But then obviously, how can you keep a non-mahram man in your house? Or how can you employ him when you have 2 young women in your house? So he had another idea. And what was that? قال, he said, meaning the old man, the father of the two girls, he said to Musa alayhi salam, Inni uridu, I intend, I want, an unkihaka, that I give in marriage to you. Unkiha, from the root letters, Noon, Kaf, Ha, Nikah. What does nikah mean? Marriage, right? And ankaha, yunkihu. And from yunkihu, unkih. Okay, this hamza that you see, this is of mutakallim. Ankaha, yunkihu. Ankaha is madi, yunkihu is mudari'. Right? So now from yunkihu, from third person, take it to first person. Unkihu, nunkihu. Okay? So unkiha, meaning I give in marriage. And it's unkiha, why fatha? Because of an. So I intend to give in marriage to you. Ihda, one of, ibnatayya, my two daughters, hataini, these two. Hatain. What is this? Hatain. Ism? Ishara. Good. Hada, hadani, hadaini, haulai, hadihi, hatani, hataini, haulai. Okay, so this is hataini. So I wish to give in marriage to you one of these two daughters of mine. Interesting. The father is proposing to the man that I wish to give my daughter in marriage to you. Typically, what do we think is the appropriate way? That the man proposes to the woman. The man's family proposes to the woman's family. But we see over here the exact opposite. The girl's family is proposing to who? The boy. This shows that this is also Islamically permissible. It may not be considered good in some cultures, however, it is permissible in our religion. Because many times what happens? People are just expecting, oh no, they should send the proposal. Oh no, they should send the proposal. And because of that, years and years go by, and two people, they're not getting married. They're just waiting for each other to ask. So Islamically, there is absolutely no problem. The father himself can also make the offer. So I wish to get one of my two daughters married to you. Ala, upon, meaning on the condition, أن تأجرني, that you work for me, ثمانية حجج, 8 years. I would like to get one of my daughters married to you on the condition that you work for me for 8 years. تأجر, Hamza Jim Ra, that you work for me for 8 years. Now, what do we see over here? That the father, he is setting a condition. What does that teach us? That at the time of nikah, certain conditions may be set, as long as both agree. You cannot impose your condition on the other. He is setting this condition, and it's up to Musa a.s. whether he accepts it or rejects. Now, we might think that it's very strange that the father is proposing. I mean, why does he want, his daughter to get married to him? And how does he know who Musa a.s. is? He just came, he murdered a man, he ran away from his country, and now he's here. You don't know who he is, which family he belongs to. What if all that he's saying is a big lie? How can you trust him? How can you trust a stranger like that? But we see that this was a very, very wise decision. Because if he were to keep a young man in his house while he himself is old and he has 2 young daughters, it would be inappropriate. Right? And if you think about it, since Musa a.s. was a good man, from whatever that he had dealt with, he understood Musa a.s. to be a good man, and he wanted to hire him as well, and at the same time, his daughter is of marriageable age, then why delay? You understand? His daughter was of marriageable age, and at the same time, Musa a.s. was a good man. So why delay? Many times what happens? That a good proposal comes, but what do people want to do? Investigate. Check. And in that investigation and checking and all of that, months and months go by, years and years go by, and that's it, then it falls apart. If a good man comes, if a righteous man comes, and you have dealt with him to realize that he is al-qawi and he is al-amin, then why delay? Why check about things that are completely unnecessary? Now, you might think that, but still, it's such a big step. How can you give your daughter to someone without even checking who the person is? We see that this man, he figured out the personality and the character of Musa alayhi salam in the little dealing that he had with him. And what was that? That while his two daughters are standing, this man comes, he doesn't even know who these girls are, he doesn't even know where he is, he finds out what the problem is, and he goes and helps them. And he does not ask for anything in return. You understand? What does it show? His quwwah and his amana. The fact that he came and offered his services, and he was very sincere and he was very trustworthy, what does it show? The good qualities that he possessed. The thing is that no matter how much you try to investigate about someone, you can never truly know them until and unless you get married to them and you deal with them after the marriage. You understand? So there are only a few things that you should be concerned about, that you should confirm, that you should check, and after that, rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the fact that Musa alayhi salam told him, the qasas, that I killed a man by mistake. He was honest. He didn't say, oh, this man doesn't know me, why tell him? No, he told him honestly as to what happened. So this shows the honesty of Musa alayhi salam, trustworthiness of Musa alayhi salam, strength of his character, and this is why this man, he trusted him. And he saw that there was good in him. I remember somebody asked once if they could hire a detective to investigate the matters of a man who had proposed for their daughter. Just imagine. Okay, hire them. What will you do? What will you find out? That they've also probably hired somebody to investigate your life, your personal affairs? What's the point? The thing is, you cannot really know about someone until you actually get married to them. Those who are lying, they can lie a lot. Don't get deceived by their words. Don't get deceived by, the way people come out to you. Look at how they're dealing with you. Look at how they work. Look at their work ethic. And that will show you the personality, the character of the person. So we see that this is the only thing that this man looked at, that he is qawi, he is ameen, he did not disrespect my daughters, he did not ask for anything in return, he offered his services, he's a good man, and I can hire him, he can benefit me, I can also benefit him. So why not, establish this relationship as well? So he offered his daughter to Musa alayhi salam in marriage. And he said that on the condition that you work for me for 8 years. Hijaj is a plural of the word hijjah. And hijjah is to intend to a certain target, and it's also used for a year. Because when the year begins, what are you looking forward to? The end, right? For the next year. So, ثمانية حجج. فَإِنْ أَتْمَمْتَ عَشْرًا. Then, if you complete عشرًا 10, meaning my condition is 8 years, but if you complete 10 years, فَمِنْ عِنْدِكَ. Then that is from you, that is your favor on me. It's not a condition for me, it's up to you. I would like for you to serve me for 10 years. However, if you do only 8, it's your choice. وَمَا أُرِيدُ. And I do not wish أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَيْكَ, that I put you to hardship. أشُقَّ from the root letters Sheen, Qaf, Qaf. Mashaqqa. What does mashaqqa mean? Difficulty. And ashaqqa meaning I put you to trouble, I put you to difficulty. How? By making this marriage, difficult for you, or by forcing you to accept it. Basically what he's saying is that you're not obliged to accept this. I wish for you to marry my daughter and work for me for 8 years, but you're not obliged to accept this. It's your choice. I'm not imposing this on you. I'm not pressurizing you. It's your choice. You can accept or you can refuse. And we can understand this statement to be as وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَيْكَ, meaning I do not wish to make your life difficult on you once you have accepted it. Once you have accepted this condition of mine. That once you get married to my daughter and you start working for me, I treat you like a slave and I make your life very difficult. I exploit you, I misuse you. No, I don't wish to do that. Because think about it, if somebody makes a condition with you that you have to stay with them for 8 years, a contract that you have to work for them for 8 years, that's a long-term commitment. Isn't it so? And you don't know, they might not pay you properly, they might not treat you properly. So you obviously have these fears. So he says, وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَيْكَ سَتَجِدُنِي. Soon you will find me, insha'Allah, if Allah wills, مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, of those who are righteous. Allah willing, you will find me as a righteous man, as a righteous person. Meaning when we deal with one another, inshallah, it will be good for both of us. You will find me as someone who fulfills His promise, who is good in his dealing. Now we see over here that this man, this old righteous man, he offers to keep his son-in-law where? With him. For how long? 8 years. Oh my God. In certain cultures, it's considered very bad if the son-in-law is staying with his parents-in-law, is staying with his wife, his wife's family, in the house of his father-in-law. Isn't it so? It's considered very bad. It's considered as a source of shame and embarrassment. That the man, how can he be so weak that he's staying with his in-laws? But we see that there's nothing wrong in that, as long as there is some mutual understanding. Yes, it is the responsibility of the man to provide home and shelter and everything to his wife after he is married. However, if the conditions are such that the man has to move in with the family of his wife, then there's no harm in that. And there could be various situations, different situations in which this might be a necessity. Like, for example, it's possible that the girl's parents are old. They're completely on their own. They don't have any other children. They have one daughter. And if she gets married and moves elsewhere, life will become very difficult for them. So the son-in-law, he agrees that, okay, the house is spacious enough, we can also live there. Might as well live there, make their life easy, make our life easy. You understand? So if the situation is such that the son-in-law has to live with her in-laws, there is absolutely no humiliation, degradation in that. As long as it's done with mutual understanding. Similarly, it's possible that the boy, he needs help. He needs financial aid. He probably does not have any help from his side of the family, and the only one who offers to help him is who? His in-laws. So if they're offering their help, he shouldn't consider this to be against his ego and arrogance, and if I go and stay with them, it's going to be shameful for me. No. It's not a cause of shame. There is absolutely nothing wrong in that. So, what was the response of Musa a.s.? Qala, he said, Musa a.s. said, ذَلِكَ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنِكَ. That is between me and you. ذَلِكَ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكَ. This is a matter that is now settled between me and you. Meaning agreed. I accept. What? That I will marry your daughter on the condition that I will serve you for 8 years. And this is agreed. أَيَّمَا الْأَجَلَيْنِ. Whichever of the two terms. Ajalain, dual of ajal. What are the two terms? Either 8 years or 10 years. Whichever of the two terms, قَضَيْتُ, I fulfill, فَلَا عُدْوَانَ عَلَيَّ. Then there is no injustice on me. If I stay here for 8 years, I don't consider that to be injustice on me. If I stay here for 10 years, again, that is not injustice on me. Meaning, this seems like a fair deal to me. He could have said, no, 8 years is too long, bring it down, make it 5 years. No. He says, if I stay here for 8 years, no problem. And if I stay here for 10 years, no problem. فَلَا عُدْوَانَ عَلَيَّ وَاللَّهُ عَلَى مَا نَقُولُ وَكِيلٌ. And Allah, over whatever we say, is a trustee. He's a guardian. Meaning we make him as our witness. So the contract was agreed in this way, and the nikah was done. This is how easy and simple marriage is in our religion. How? That it can be done in this way as well. That we see that two men, they meet one another, and what happens? They meet one another for the first time, and the older man, he sees good qualities in him, and he says, would you like to marry my daughter? This is the condition. And he says, okay, fine, done. Yes, now in our Sharia, we have the condition of witnesses, right? Allahu A'lam whether it was present in that Sharia or not, but the marriage took place, the nikah was done with this exchange of conversation. That Musa a.s. said, ذَلِكَ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكَ. This is between me and you, meaning accepted, this is agreed. This is how simple it is. But we make it so complicated, we make it so difficult, that we make, this whole marriage like a huge problem. Instead of something that is easy, instead of something that is convenient, it becomes such a huge problem for each and every person who is involved in it. Now over here, one part of the life story of Musa alayhi salam is completed. Which one? The one before prophethood. From his childhood, to his stay in Egypt, to the murder, to the escape to Madian, and then to the stay in Madian for 8 or 10 years. But we see that even this part of his life, which was before prophethood, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about this part in so much detail. Isn't it so? In so much detail it is mentioned. Why? Because there are many, many lessons that we can learn from this. Whenever we come across the stories of the prophets of Allah, what do we say? They were prophets of Allah, this is why they were so patient. They were prophets of Allah, this is why they did this and they did that. But what do we see? That he was not a prophet at this point. Yet he was a muhsin. Yet he was someone who turned to Allah. Yet he was so good when it came to dealing with other people. So there are many lessons that can be learned from this part of the story of Musa alayhi salam before receiving prophethood. And the greatest lesson, the main lesson that we learn is that who is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses for His work? Because based on how Musa alayhi salam was up till now, this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose him later on. Isn't it so? So, what was in Musa alayhi salam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selected him? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose him? It was his good character. It was his concern for other people. It was the fact that he was a muhsin. There are many people who want to do good, who want to be chosen for the work of Allah, but they do not know what they should do in order to be worthy of it. If we want to become worthy of this work, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? Be concerned for others. Overcome your own problems. Overcome your own worries. And start thinking about other people. How you can help them. How you can be of aid to them. We see that Musa alayhi salam, look at him, that he got a job for how long? 8 years. He got an 8-year contract. And along with that, he also got a family. Many times what happens? People, they're struggling to get one certification, one degree after the other, right? One job experience after the other, so that they can, make more money. They can get a better job. And while they are busy doing that, they obviously cannot even think of getting married. And what happens if they do get a job? They figure out, oh, this is not what I wanted to do. This is not what I like. I should be doing something different. Right? Or what happens? They like what they're doing. However, they find it so difficult. Or the people who they're working for, they don't like them. And they get fired. They lose their job. What do we see over here? Musa alayhi salam, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He asked Allah, he prayed to Allah, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. And we see that he was concerned for other people. He wanted to help others. And look at how Allah helped him. That he got a job for the next 8 years, it was confirmed. It was a contract. And on top of that, he got a wife, he got a house, he got a family, he got a place to live in. How many times does it happen with people? That they get a job, they get a wife, they get a house as well. How many times does it happen? Very rarely. But we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His khaza'in, they're not limited. It's up to us. How much do we ask? How much do we show before Allah that, Ya Allah, I am faqir before you. I am needy before you. Okay, we listen to the recitation and then we'll continue. We see that we should have positive thinking about other people, good hopes, that in the little that you've dealt with them, they have been very responsible, they have been very good, very careful in the work that they have done. So why not think positively about them and give them opportunity? We see that this man, he trusted Musa alayhi salam. He offered him the job. He offered him his daughter. And we see that Musa alayhi salam proved to be very beneficial for him as well afterwards. That for 10 years Musa alayhi salam served him. Many times what happens, we keep doubting people. We can never trust them. We say, oh, what if they do this, and what if they say that, and what if this happens? Rely upon Allah. If you have the intention to really help someone for the sake of Allah, inshallah, Allah will also help you. And also we learn that we should never ever belittle any opportunity to do good. We should never miss it, thinking, oh, we'll do it later, we'll do it another time. We see that Musa alayhi salam, he took advantage of that opportunity of helping the two women, and look at how the doors of khair opened up for him because of that. You never know which action of yours might be acceptable in the sight of Allah, and it may result in so much good for you in the future. When we meet people, we shouldn't be, busy trying to dig up their past. Okay, what did they do, and where they were, and all of that. Just be concerned about how you're dealing with them, how they are dealing with you. We see that this man, he didn't ask Musa alayhi salam, so did you kill anybody else, and why exactly, and what happened, and he didn't ask him more details. He just accepted whatever Musa alayhi salam told him. Also we learned that we hire people on personality traits, but we fire them on their character traits. And the thing is that we should hire people based on what? On their character, on their ability, right? This is what we should hire them on. And we see that Musa alayhi salam's mother, she trusted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what happened? She was rewarded with her child being returned to her, and she was given a wage as well. And we see that Musa alayhi salam, he trusted Allah, and he was rewarded with a house, a wife, and also a wage on top of that. Also we learned that tamshi ala istihya, that this woman, she came to Musa alayhi salam walking with shyness. This should not just be in our walk, but also in our talk, in the way we talk to men. That we see that when she spoke to him, she didn't say, hi, I'm here again, or anything like that. What did she say? Just directly to the point, that my father is calling you, he wishes to give you a wage. That's it. We have to be very careful in the manner that we talk to men as well. That sometimes we're on the phone, sometimes online, sometimes even when it's got to do with some work, but we get very inappropriate, and as a result, it ends up in many wrong things happening.